You're listening to the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast, where we talk about hunting, politics, sports, and everything in between. Now, here's your host, Steve West.
Hey everybody, welcome to this special episode number 8 of the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast. I have a little hiatus here. We've been doing a lot of spring projects. The Steve's Outdoor Adventures office has been kind of busy as heck. It's peak booking season. A lot of things are happening in the western states because Canada's closed, and it's probably going to stay closed for the rest of this year. It's unfortunate that hunters and fishermen are not going to be able to travel north of the border, but that's been a boon for the western states outfitters and the Alaskan outfitters because, let's face it, thousands of hunters and fishermen who would normally go to Canada are now looking for United States destinations, and that means our office is hopping right now. I feel real bad for our partners in the north. Hopefully this thing ends sooner rather than later, and everybody can get back to business as usual. But in the meantime, we've just been super busy. The ammo shop is going through major changes, more staff, different staff, new buildings almost done. Within a month, we should be moving into our new building and facilities where we're going to be able to expand Pendleton Ammunition and the Adventure Armory extensively. But because we've been so busy, I haven't been able to record this 8th podcast, and I'm really excited for this particular episode. It's one that I've been looking forward to probably more than any other, simply because my guest this week is somebody who literally followed my ass. Literally, he looked at my ass extensively, following me with camera for a few years, more than a few years, a long time. We were on some tremendous adventures together, and I asked him to come on the podcast, and I said, let's tell the stories that we could never really tell with the camera. Definitely the stories that the network would never let us air. And, tonight I welcome to the podcast Ian Majszak. He was my field producer, videographer, buddy, travel companion. We slept together a couple of times in separate sleeping bags in very small tents. I can actually say in a non-gay way that we slept in very small, confined spaces. And not that there's anything wrong with being gay. I just want to throw that out there. but Ian, welcome to the show, man. I hear you chuckling in the background. How you been?
I've been doing great, man. First of all, thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation big time, man, because, boy, like you said, we've seen some things, traveled some miles, and slept in some really weird, tight quarters on top of doing some other cool stuff. So I appreciate you having me on tonight.
Oh, anytime, man. I'd like I said, this is one I was really looking forward to because I think that our listeners really want to hear stories. Yeah, everybody wants a little advice and they want to learn something new about the latest scopes or maybe the latest draw odds information, stuff like that's always cool. But let's face it, if you're listening to a podcast, you want to be entertained. And I can honestly say that there are times when I'm on long stretches of a highway these last few years, and I literally entertain myself by thinking of some of the stories that we're going to tell tonight. And there's times when I wonder why we're still alive, to be honest with you. So
yeah, that would definitely make two of us. And it's funny, man, because when I'm on the road too, I have a lot of people asking me the same deal. Like, come on, man. Like, tell me the good stuff. Like, tell me the stuff that didn't make the show. And I'm like, all right, but it stays in the vehicle. So it's all new water for me.
Oh, yeah. Hey, just quick. So you're moving to Homer, Alaska, or Anchor Point or something, aren't you? I remember you mentioned something to me.
Yeah. We're going to pick up stakes here out of Bozeman, and we decided to move to Alaska full time. That pulls too much, man. Alaska's too awesome. We got to go up there full time now.
The 406 to the 907, that's a night and day difference, honestly.
Oh, yeah. The logistics are pretty wild, but, man, Bozeman's pretty shot up. There's a lot of weird things going on here, and so we're like, well, let's go to Alaska. Like, it has all the good stuff that we love and what we love to hunt for and fish for. So, yeah, made the decision. We're going for it.
Are you going to come be like snowbirds for the winter and, like, go to Florida like our buddy Paul and hang out down there while the snow flies and Alaska's miserable? Or are you guys going to be true polar bears?
Ooh, I think actually Florida weirds me out a little bit. Huh. I don't know if you ever had the chance to Google Florida man and your birth date and then see what comes up. It can get pretty weird.
Nope, not me, brother. Not me. Florida, California, a couple places New York City. Let's just not travel to those places. I'm too red in the neck for those locations.
Right. That makes two of us. So we pretty much landed on Alaska and possibly Texas, and then even Mexico, man. Mexico looks pretty good at this point.
Mexico, no joke. Yeah, Mexico's looking good to me right now. I wouldn't mind being down south of the border doing anything that is fun and involves tequila at the moment, which reminds me tonight's podcast is sponsored by Fubar Tequila. If you want to get loaded, get Fubar. All right. Well, let's get down to it. I got one. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot. I just want to confirm for all of the listeners out there that are single ladies that are familiar with Ian Majszak, there's some huge news. Ian is officially off the market. Is this correct, Ian? Are you truly going to tie the knot, going to get married? I mean, I know that there's some girls in the 406 and the 541 and the 503 and the 213 and the 312 and a bunch of other area codes that probably want to know for sure, is Ian Majszak truly going to get married, and is he truly going to be off the market?
Oh, man, for a hot minute there, I thought you were going to freestyle like a gangster rap.
All the bitches in the 313. No.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I'm off the market. I'm officially making the jump, and boy, it's a trip. There's a lot that goes into a wedding and stuff and so on and so forth. But yeah, making the plunge, man. I'm nervous, but I'm pretty happy about it.
Good. Well, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of hearts breaking out there right now. I know there's a girl here in LeGrand that back in the day would have probably, done anything for you. It's funny. I bump in, no names, of course we'll keep that on the down low, but I remember those days and I was thinking, wow, I really wish I was Ian right now. Just for a half hour or something, just a half hour to be Ian Majszak and, it'd be in all seriousness, congratulations on getting married and the upcoming wedding. And I actually had text with Fiona. She had Fiona's for everybody that's listening, Fiona's his fiance. She had texted me about Finn, the dog, blah blah blah, and I was like, hey, so am I getting an invite to the wedding or am I just coming to the party? I know I'm not really black time affair material, I mean, but I'll show up to a good party any day. And she was like, oh yeah, you better show up to the party. So anyway, I so genuinely, are you excited about getting married?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. I'm definitely thrilled about the marriage part of it, not thrilled about everything that goes into like the pre-marriage part of it, because holy crap.
Planning, et cetera.
That gets intense.
Yeah. Hey, just curious, have you run into our buddy that has the blue slushy girl story?
Ooh, can't say I have. I wish I did, though.
I reached out to him a while back, and he messaged me back. We shot the breeze back and forth the messages. But, yeah, I mean, we're due to have a catch-up session with him one of these days just for fun. Once again, we'll keep names out of it. Blue Slushy Girl story is one that stays with me.
Yeah, me too, unfortunately, for better or worse.
All right, so let me ask you this. Out of all the travels that we did, all the places that we went, what was the one trip? If you had to pick one, which one was the most fun?
Ooh, man, that's a really hard one. Like the most fun start to finish, or like glimpsing moments of awesome fun?
Start to finish, because we can cover a lot of moments in this podcast. But like start to finish, what's that one trip where you're just like, holy crap, that was a blast?
Oh, without a doubt, my answer would be your stone sheep hunt up in British Columbia.
Really? Because that was a grind. Trip. That was a grind. I mean, for all of you that are listening, once again, this is, if you listened to us earlier, we were talking about the Buffalo Bill moment. This is the trip where we came up with the rule that it's okay for someone to lose their shit. You just can't all lose your shit at the same time. So there was only one person at a time was allowed to lose their shit. And, and I apologize for language, but the reality is that when you do 2 weeks in the backcountry with lack of food, sleeping on rocks, chasing grizzly bears away from your food sack, eventually you're going to lose your shit. I mean, I'm surprised that you chose that one because honestly, that was a grind. I mean, the jet boat ride was a blast. I don't know if you remember when we went through like all those towns in BC, and as we got closer, we stopped to get groceries, and they're like, "Oh, where are you guys going? Oh, we're going to run up the Stikine River." And people were like, "You're going to do what? You're going to die." I was like, "What? I'm not going to die. It's a jet boat run up the river. We do this all the time, right?" And they're like, "You're going to die in Beggarly Canyon." And I remember we got closer and closer, and there were signs that were like Beggarly Canyon. Watch out, big death rapids in Beggarly Canyon. What'd you think of Beggarly Canyon?
Well, that trip was so fun because you're like, I remember vividly the conversation. You're like, "Hey, man, I really want a stone sheep, but I want to do it like in this really big way. Like I want to just not take planes and normal transportation. Like I want to make it an adventure. Like, are you in?" And of course, me being me, I'm like, gave the fast yes. I was like, yes. And you're like, so we'll grab the truck and the boat that has this like coating that protects Humvees, over in the Middle East. So we're good there.
Yeah.
And we'll trailer that boat up, and then we'll drive it, 1,500 clicks, to the north, and then we'll put the boat in, and then we'll drive like another 120 clicks upriver. And there's this one thing, there's like this one set of rapids that could be bad. And I'm like, all right, like how bad? And you're like, don't worry about it. I'm like, all right, I won't.
Yeah.
And then, made the drive and got up there, and losing light because we were taking time, getting shots and everything. And I was like, man, like I looked at you, I was like, are you sure you got this? And you were like so steadfast. You're like, oh yeah, dude, it's no problem. And I'll never forget you running through that thing, and it was just like pucker factor at 10.
Well, but remember, that was Jewel Rapids, right?
And that's before we ever even started hunting. It was.
Oh yeah, I mean, before we ever got out of the boat and went hunting, we were like deep into it, right? I mean, just the river experience. The whole trip up, I was thinking, man, Beggarly Rapids, I better not tell these guys we could die there. They won't get in the boat, and especially Sam, And so, but it's like power up. And I was like, damn, Beggarly Canyon. You see these warning signs, Beggarly Canyon, Beggarly Canyon. We shot through Beggarly Canyon. I was like, that was it? Like, woo. That was like, well, they said something about this place, Jewel Rapids, which was really just a pinball machine. You just had to avoid the rocks, right? And I remember going through there in the dark, and you were on the cooler in the front of the boat, and we're going against the current, and it's pitch black, and you're like left, right, blah, blah, blah. We shoot through, we get up there. And I remember Ron and Maria were like, you guys should not have run Jewel Rapids in the dark. And I was thinking, what was the big deal? Then we went to leave, and we left in the daylight, and the river dropped 300 CFS. We came around the corner, and we found Jewel Rapids. And I was like, oh, shit, somebody turned the lights off because it was better in the dark than it is in the daylight. And I can't believe I didn't clip a rock. By the way, clipping rocks. Do you remember the first boat ride we took in the Silver Rocket with the coating on the bottom when we went down steelhead fishing and that rock we hit coming back upriver? Folks, let me tell you something. So,
how could I forget? Yeah. How could I forget that one?
We smoked a rock. Let me tell you. So we ripped down this river. We go down the Grand Run River and then up the Wallowa River, and we fished, and we're on our way back. And it was early. I don't even remember if we caught any fish, but we're just ripping along. And I have a Phantom Sniper boat that's made down in Clarkson, Washington, and so that you protect the bottom of the boat. If you're someone like me who likes to actually aim for rocks with your jet boat, you want to get this bottom called Hardcore, and it's this coating that they spray on the bottom, and it gets brittle, and then it becomes impervious, and then it's bulletproof. And I remember, so Ian and I are just ripping up the river. We're doing over 40 miles an hour, guaranteed. And I tagged this Razorback rock, and Ian, I know Ian remembers because I'm sure we were both about half cocked out. I mean, from the impact, and I mean,
it was a Miami Vice cigarette boat moment.
Oh, air and everything, and we hauled ass upriver. I mean, I remember going as fast as I could up, and we got it on the trailer, and we both climbed underneath the boat, and we're like, "Oh God, where's the hole? Surely there's a hole," and there wasn't even a mark. I mean, I was like, now I can really aim for rocks, right?
Yeah. I remember that one. That was much more than like a kiss. That was like a full on like, poof, haymaker.
Yeah.
At 40 miles an hour.
But that wasn't the big one. The big one, remember the time we took, it's funny, we have so many stories. Remember when we had Dylan in the boat and we were going to go film steelhead fishing and we're teaching the kids like creative filming on the river, and we hit the rock with the sun in my eyes because I was going too fast, got loose in the corner. And I think you ended up going from the seat to the cooler in the front of the boat, and I had that split on my head. I know it was you and Dylan and I think, in the boat. And anyway, that one actually did leave a mark in the hardcore, but it was just a scratch. The scratch was on my face when I hit that rock.
We hit that thing so hard that you're right. I was on front of that, sitting on that Yeti cooler.
You were on bull riding position.
Levitated 3 feet above and luckily hovered at speed.
Yes.
I watched your head spake off the windshield.
Yeah. It was no bueno.
It was like, how do we make it? And then the best part was, you're like, well, after you came to, you're like, well, let's just keep fishing.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys want to quit?
We don't quit, dude. We just roll, right? Roll on. Let's just do this. Let's just roll on. And anyway, that's like, for everybody out there that's listening right now, honestly, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The stories that we're going to tell over the course of this hour-long podcast are going to blow your mind, because there's moose hunts, grizzly hunts, Shiras moose hunts. There's all of these incredible adventures that we went on. But we do have to hear from one of our sponsors real quick. And when we come back, the stories will continue. Ian Majszak, thank you for joining me on the show. I can hardly wait to continue this conversation after this short commercial break.
This segment of the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast is sponsored by Bergara Rifles, where the people truly make the difference.
You'll love it, Ian. We even have a real clacker now with like the little black and white bars on it and everything. It's bitching.
Love it. Love it.
All right, we're back here in the podcast studio. We're at the table called Clark, and on the phone we have Ian Majszak. And for those of you who don't know, Ian was a videographer, field producer, buddy, travel companion, everything. I mean, in all seriousness, we did probably one of the greatest runs of adventure hunting ever. We did the adventure series together. In fact, I think you filmed on every one of the adventure series episodes, you, and then there was Dan and Raymond and Ian. I mean, we had such a great cast and crew of people that were involved in the making of the adventure series, and I was really proud of it. I wish the network would have stuck with the 1 hour format, and let us gravitate that direction. But, of course, they wanted to stay with the half hour format, which is a shame because we told some incredible stories. All right, Stone Sheep Hunt. What was your, we were talking about that when we went to the commercial break. What was your number one memory from that trip? And it better not be when I woke up in the middle of the night and you were sitting over me holding a pillow, just, basically smother me out for snoring and farting in the tent. Seriously, what was your number one moment in that trip that you remember more than anything else?
Ooh, that's a big one. I guess, honestly, the landscape of British Columbia was absolutely insane, bonkers, beautiful. And to walk through that on foot with, 70, 80-pound packs with the crew and the team we had was crazy. It really anybody who travels and takes on like a really big lofty goal, there's all sorts of variables, and the variables inevitably are the people. And so we had this packer up from Georgia.
Named Georgia.
We had this guide named Georgia, right? And then we had our guide from Germany, whom we'd never met, and was given like a paper 9x11 map where north was maybe not necessarily north.
It wasn't even 9x11, Ian. That was a fucking napkin.
And he's sitting there, smoking a pipe from part of an arrow that he killed from a bear, and we just fly in. Well, we drove and drove a drift boat or a jet boat and everything else to get up there, and then here we are, and we're like, well, let's just jump in this side by side and see how it goes. So like Steve jumps in this thing and just grinds her out, crosses a couple creeks, and
the Argo.
The Argo, and there's absolutely no trail. And we're like, what is going on? Like, we're off to a tough start. And we have like many more miles to go through the steep, crazy country. And I'm like, I don't know if this is looking too good, you know, but we all hammer down and we're like, well, it kind of is what it is. So we're just going to have to go to the packs and start climbing some stuff and try and find these sheep with literally everything stacked against us. It was crazy, man. Like I couldn't imagine walking through that scenario in your shoes. Cause I'd be like, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was a huge adventure from start to finish. From the minute we left home with the jet boat to the time that we got back. I mean, remember stopping for wings at that hotel restaurant? I can't remember the name of the town where you're at. I stopped there like 3 years in a row because they had the really hot chicks that served, you know, the wings. It was awesome. And
oh yeah.
But I mean, the entire duration of that adventure was fantastic, minus having an outfitter that didn't have a freaking clue where the sheep were or when we should have been there or anything else. I mean, and that said, I don't have to kill something on a trip to feel like it was a good time. And that was a great trip from a lot of different perspectives. You know, a trip that
You proved that with your attitude on that trip. Like you totally proved it. You're like that's me at that point in time. I was like, damn, like Steve's like an OG. Like this is a guy that like straight up is willing to grind and hunt and go to some really far places and put the work in. And then, you know, like we're talking about, when you meet that, you're like, whew, but you still kept going, like always. And we still had a good time. I mean, granted, I almost held a pillow over your face and tried to squash you out one night after you ate some bad
Pad CU chicken
Mountain House meal. And it smelled like a hot box Volkswagen in a Walmart parking lot. It was so bad. I love you, bro, but I wanted to kill you so bad that night.
Hey, let me tell you something. Since that day, and this is no lie, since that trip ended, I have not had a Cliff Bar, and I will sure as hell never, ever in my life eat Backpacker's Pantry, especially not Pad CU chicken. I think I would starve to death before I ingested that stuff into my system ever again, because I have to tell you that by the end of that trip, I smelled so bad. And felt so bad. And I mean, remember I dropped like 8 belt loops. I know I dropped at least, I think it was 30 or 39 pounds. I mean, it was like the greatest fat kid camp of all time. And I mean, it's August 1st. So I'm like summer fat, haven't been working out at all. I mean, COVID 40 has nothing over on how I went into that hunt, you know, and just sweated out my pack. I mean, I remember, so I had the biggest backpack. I'm sure you remember that. Had my big Alaska, you know, Frontier Gear pack, and you guys were like, hey, we can get like 7 more batteries in Steve's pack. He won't mind. We're filming him. So that's like 100 pounds of batteries plus my gear. You know, it's felt like I was like dragging a stone up the mountain all the time. You know, but we were supposed to be able to take this Argo to the knob, and it turned out when we got to where we were still a long ways from knob. Then we thought we got to the knob. And it really wasn't the knob.
The magical knob.
Yeah, the magical
knob that did not exist.
Yeah, we got a knob job on that one, all right. Anyway, so then when we get to the knob, then we've got to like figure out how to get to the, what was it called, the cathedral or the amphitheater or whatever, you know, where these sheep were at. And when we got there was sheep. They only had half of the required quantity of horn to be legal. There was only 3 or 4 of them. And, yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, if you go into a hunt and when you travel and hunt as much as I have in my career, you know, you go into a hunt not expecting anything. And, you know, you have certain expectations in terms of, you know, the outfitter will provide you with food. Granted, sometimes they have to drop it from an airplane 3 days late. But you,
yep.
And then complain about it, and then but then there's also times when you go into a hunt, you're like when you travel to hunt, you pay for a hunt, and that was an expensive one. you still are not buying an animal. You're buying an adventure. And on that one, I got my money's worth. I got the full meal deal adventure along with I think I ended up losing 8 toenails, 38 pounds, 8 belt loops, and about 40 large.
Almost got smothered out by a pillow from a camera operator. Yeah,
exactly. And my mind got seared. Look, when you were when I hear you saying something, I'm turned the other way and I turn around and your pants are around your ankles and you got your junk tucked and you're doing the Buffalo Bill on top of a 4-foot high rock. I almost vomited. Then I started laughing. So then I almost choked to death laughing on my own vomit. And the memory never goes away. Sometimes it comes to me at 2:00 in the morning in the form of a nightmare. And other times it just comes to me while I'm driving down the road and I almost go off the road laughing my ass off. And so, the memories, they never, ever go away. That's the great thing, about these trips. And, one trip that the 2 stalks we made on this trip, you remember the peninsula hunt we did where we took Dan Hannes from Bergara?
Oh yeah, sure do. Yeah.
It was 20 days of misery, but 18 days of misery and 2 days of kick-ass hunting. And I remember as that hunt wore on, I was thinking, dang, are we going to get some bears here or what? We'd see them off in the distance. You felt like it was going to happen. Eventually those things do happen. But, the 2 things about that trip that stand out to me is, number one, when we made the stalk on the bear that Dan eventually killed, I remember that stupid airplane flying over us as we're gaining the final ground on these bears. And I thought, man, this is going to be epic. And then that damn plane flew over. And that ruined everything in terms of that. Can you imagine how epic that shooting sequence would have been at 150 yards when those bears stood up and were not aware of our presence, blah, 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 versus they jump up because a dude in a Cherokee 6 flies over 50 feet over their head. And
oh yeah.
Yeah. That would have been great.
Yeah, that one was teed up like textbook, and shoot, we sat there and endured in the tents for so long and made up so many weird games, like throwing change in our cups, and it was such a long time.
Slow motion.
And then all of a sudden the weather broke, and then it was all right, here we go. And then there the bears were.
Yeah.
And Bill,
Big
God
Bill.
bless him, his sense of humor, and loved licorice like Dan did. And yeah.
Slow motion lotion shots.
Yeah, there was a lot of it. Well, there was one of that, which I will never do again.
Hey,
it's scary. When it gets hard, I watch that video and I'm like, really? Was it really that bad? And it was kind of that bad.
Yeah, it was that bad. Slow motion turds.
Yeah.
We won't mention Dan's name.
We won't throw him under the bus.
We will not throw Dan under the bus for taking a slow motion turd shot. Folks, don't be grossed out. This is just how weird shit gets when you're in camp for 2 or 3 weeks. Nothing's happening. The batteries on the iPad are dead. You can't watch your 25 downloaded movies anymore. The weather has you socked into tents. You're sleeping on cots. You got your Big Agnes sleeping bag smells absolutely horrid. When you climb in at night, you literally have to plug your nose because you've been in it so many nights. And then it decides to rain, snow, sleet, fog you in, can't see. Wind blows so hard you think the tent's coming down. And then the sun comes out, the bears pop out, and you go and you kill a bunch of bears. It was fantastic. The other thing I remember from that trip that really stands out to me was during the stalk on the bear that I ended up shooting. Remember that sow? She came over the back of the dam. Man, that was a badass stalk, man. But when she stood up, I remember you were wearing a red shirt that said Alaska on it. I was thinking, I wonder why he's wearing a red shirt. Yeah, but surely the bears wouldn't see him. And she stands up. She's totally keyed in on you. I was like, I wonder what she's looking at, Ian. Then her boyfriend followed her over the hill, and then it was on, but.
That was so professionally embarrassing. I got caught with my pants totally down. Because, like you said, the weather broke and it got hot and warm, and then I realized all that I was wearing was this red hot cotton shirt. So I peeled off the Kuyu camo, charged down there. Didn't think it was going to happen that fast. It happened that fast.
Yeah, like snap.
And then I'm the guy that's like, that gets stuck out in the open. Of course, you're in like pure hunting, mode. And Bill's calling the shots, and you're like, all right, here he is. And I was like, oh, that sow saw me. And then she came, and I was like, oh, no. After all this time, I'm going to be the guy that messes this up at the moment of truth wearing a red Alaska shirt.
You can hear the audio on my lapel mic because Dan is like right over my shoulder. And you can hear
terrible.
Dude, I have the audio. I literally look back at you, and you're like, I mean, don't get me wrong, you're doing your job, you're filming, you just look like a boner at a nude beach. And I literally, so I'd literally say these words like, oh shit, she sees Ian, and I was like, well, we still got to do this, right? I mean, it's not going to stop. She's like cued in, she stands up on her hind legs. She's like, she made that little sound, and she was ready. She woof, huff, and I was thinking, oh man, she might roll up on us here. This might even be awesome. Because you know how it is. I'd rather get 10 feet from a bear and shoot it than shoot it at 100 yards. And then, obviously her boyfriend decided to follow her over the hill. They were taking that nice little swim in the lake together. It's peak of the bear rut. So it was awesome. End of May, the bear, the bugs are out. I remember after we killed the bear, we got ate alive by mosquitoes. But I mean, it was just, that was a great episode. That was just an all-around, another one of those epic trips. We got kick-ass, super cub flying with Phil, sliding around in the wind. And, I remember we went back to town and ate dinner one night, just to like, to hell with this. Let's fly out and do something different for dinner tonight. But, I mean, all in all, it was just a kick-ass adventure from start to finish. Good people. We had Dan Hannes with us, and minus that Packer. And if the Packer Mike's listening, Mike, I did think you were a tool, but I'm sure you're all right now with a few years under your belt.
Yeah, he was pretty green. We had to leave some stuff on the audio floor after his reaction. But I mean, I get it because it was super epic the way it went down. It was like,
oh yeah,
I couldn't imagine. And then you rolled that bear like it was just, and she was coming. I was like, hey, I'm the guy that's standing up here wearing the red Alaska shirt, like, does anybody see the sow coming? And you're like, you were so keyed into that bar, and just kapoof.
Yeah. Once he was done, she bugged out, once the shooting started. But, I love that big bear hunting. The bigger the bear, the better. And not from a trophy standpoint. I'm talking from an adventure standpoint, Some of those bears that we saw on that trip, even the ones that were way off in the distance, they were toads, man. They were huge. And I would go back and hunt that camp again, but I think I'd show up around the 20th of May just for that last 10 days. I think that hunting there, I think those bears get out there in that big valley that we were glassing every day. I think that's where they really they load up in there for the rut. Excuse me. So, I mean, yeah, what an adventure. And you're right, man. Our guide on that trip was absolutely badass. I like that big guy. I'd hunt with him again, the drop hat. I don't even know if he's still guiding in Alaska, but if he is, I'd go up for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Excuse me. Well, I'll tell you what, we got to take another commercial break here. We got to hear from one of our sponsors. When we come back, the stories are going to continue. I'm going to throw a little advice your way when it comes to traveling and hunting different exotic places. But like I said, we'll be right back with some more of the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast.
This segment of the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast is sponsored by Marathon Seat Covers. We've got you covered.
All right, everybody, we're back here at the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast. I'm on the phone with Ian Majszak. Ian, we've talked about two of these epic trips we've gone on, the stone sheep hunt, the brown bear hunt. What do you remember from the moose hunt? The Alaska moose hunt.
Ooh, which one?
The one where we killed something.
Holy smokes. The one that comes to mind is the last one where you shot that big, weird bull that had those big, long fronts, and he was an old bull. Holy crap. We hunted really, really hard. Yeah. Really hard that trip. Had to pick up camp. We cross rivers. Moose hunting's funny because, like, coming from Montana, like, you know, you maybe get one moose hunt a year, well, in your life. So you just get really used to that noise of like cow calling. It's like, and then that goes on, and you're filming it, and you're like, cool, man, that sounds like a really good call. That's like on day one. And then like day two, like, and you're like, wow, all right. And then day three, and you're like, holy crap, could Steve please kill a moose? Like, this is so crazy.
Yeah.
But that hunt was cool because same deal. Like we hiked our asses off. We covered a lot of ground. We crossed a lot of rivers, called a lot, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And push came to shove, and it was you that made the decision. We flipped a coin, right? Remember?
Flipped a coin. Yep. Do we relocate or do we not relocate?
Yeah.
Heads or tails?
Yeah, that was a call. You're like, heads we relocate, tails, you know, we stick her out. And as fate would have it, flipped a header, and away we went. So
actually, it was tails.
And
it was tails. Tails never fails. Yep, tails never fails.
Tails never fails. All right, I stand corrected. And we pulled up whole entire camp after hunting like 8 really hard days. Can't do same day flies. So, I mean, that was the day to make the call. Relocated. And then, oh boy, shit broke loose from there. Wait the period of time. And then this other packer or guide goes and cruises around and finds that moose. It's a big old scramble. And we're like, here we go. It's just a total scramble.
Yeah.
And man, pulled that moose in on a rope. That was fun.
I've never seen a moose called up an open hillside out of the brush before. Ever.
Me neither.
I mean, he was in the wide open, close, and I'm pretty sure he was looking at us sitting there going, what is that? And what's that clicking sound?
Yeah.
Click.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's at least 2 or 3 S-bombs, not F-bombs, S-bombs, when I pulled the trigger and nothing happened 3 times in a row when that firing pin, look, just some strong advice for folks that go out hunting. If you're going to spend 2 weeks in the Alaskan bush, clean your gun. I don't leave it outside the tent. I actually got some rust in my firing pin, and, and I didn't clean my gun. I didn't take as good a care of it as I could have. And it's not the manufacturer's fault when you decide to, sleep in the rain, then let your equipment rust up and suffer the fate of most things that are metal in Alaska. But like, no joke, this moose is like, how far away would you think that bull was from us?
Bow range.
Yeah. But, easy. I mean, he was close. And he's looking at me and I'm like, all right, I'm going to drop the hammer on this bad boy. And click. I'm like, uh-oh. So I lift the bolt, drop the bolt. Didn't cycle it, just lift it up real slow down. Moose is looking at us. He's got a big old drool string hanging out of his mouth. I was like, all right, this is the one. I'm going to smack him. Everybody get ready. You guys on him? Yeah. Click. Looks like it's shit. So that happened one more time, and then I was like, screw it. I'm throwing the bolt all the way back. I'm going to cycle it. Because then I thought, at the moment, I didn't realize it was like rust and neglect and my fault. I thought, dang it. I own the ammo company. I was thinking, shoot, must have got a bad primer or something. So I cycle it, throw it in, chamber that round, slam the bolt down, bull takes off. Pretty much not a quartering away shot. It was more like a slivering away shot. Fed it kind of through a little bit of meat in the back quarter all the way through his chest cavity up toward the front shoulder as he was moving and going over the hill. And like you said, used the word as fate would have it, we're able to roll him up down there, and man, that was something else. I mean, that was like a pucker factor moment because I was ready to go home without a moose, and then he showed up.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
but I mean, that I feel like that's a really important lesson because like now from here on out, like I always take that lesson with a grain of sand because I'm like, always make sure like check your firing pin, like check all like the obvious stuff because Alaska will find a fucking weakness, in anything.
Yeah, if there's a chink in your armor.
Well, and it's funny, like people that don't hunt for TV, like don't realize, everything that goes into it, where you're like you said, you're like camera checking, like now one guy, but two guys in the guide. And you're like, okay, you good? You good? And we're like, hell yeah, we're good. Like, shoot it. Click. And you're like, oh, it's like the click of death. And you're like, no. You're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. And then it worked out. And thank God, you can shoot the way you shoot because you actually pinned him on the fucking getaway. And it worked out, It was a great shot.
Yeah. I had somebody ask me, though, Ian.
Getting thrown on your toes, like you were thrown on your toes. It was a great shot. It was a great shot.
I got asked if he had been going straight away from me instead of slivering away from me, would I have still shot him in the back end? And I remember thinking at the moment, I was thinking, boy, it's a good thing that he gave me like a little window of like the back end of his rib cages, where it's a good thing he was fat enough that there was a little something hanging out there to aim in there and tuck it in. But I honestly couldn't answer the question. I was like, I don't know. I guess I never thought about that. You get to the end of this incredibly tough hunt, and I'd like to think my answer would be no. I wouldn't just run it up as 6. I remember thinking, oh man, you've got like a narrow window here. Make it count, and got honestly, yeah, I can shoot, but I mean that's luck when you feed it through a sliver like that. I mean, I know that the big guy upstairs was guiding that bullet more than I was, and we were real fortunate. And what an old beast of a bullet was. I mean, good God, he's old and gnarly, and that was a cool trip. The other one that was cool, and this is one that taught me a little bit of a lesson, was the bison hunt. When we took the boat around Shimmigan Island.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Remember that one.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling good. It was like, and honestly, I get seasick, right? So we're bobbing around in a boat, and it wasn't even bad water. It's just I get seasick if I'm not running the boat. And Captain Heineken was up there in the crow's nest running the boat, and
there is that for sure. We're like, hey, could we remove these 12 packs of Heineken so we could get a shot?
I mean, literally, the guy captaining the boat drank enough Heineken to make their stock go. I mean, we had to move empty Heineken bottles out of the shot so that we could film on the boat. Yeah. But I was kind of like seasick, and I was non-motivated, and I just, I was like, ugh. And there's this big bison up on the hill, and Tom had already got his, and I was like, I don't know if I want to go. You guys were like, dude, if you're going to do this, look, everybody needs a kick in the ass every now and then, and I needed one. You guys gave me a nice kick in the ass, and once we got up there and started hiking, it was on. I mean, we took off, and we did work, But that was a huge bull. That was a badass bull. And that was a great, that's another one of those hunts. I just came across the photographs the other day, and I thought, wow, damn, that was a big bull. In fact, I just got him back not 6 months ago from the taxidermist. He's up on the wall above the entry to my office. God, if he falls off on me, I'm dead. He's huge.
Yeah, that bull was an absolute slammer.
But the stock.
Same deal, though. We went way up, had to try and park the boat. Wayne did, or whoever.
Captain Heineken.
Yeah, Captain Heineken. Edit that. Delete.
Yeah.
You boys listening. Yeah. Had to go and march up this big old death hill, this big old death knob. Got on the first time, and they took off, and we're at the same point, it's raining, it's miserable, it's hard. We've been here on this island in the middle of nowhere in Alaska for so long, and we're like, oh.
It was the end of the season, too. It was mid-October, if I remember right. And
yeah.
Not the end of the season, but it was getting toward the end. I mean, you're thinking about going back to the 406 for deer and elk season, and I'm like, oh, man, we've been at it since August at that point, and it's motivation's leaving. I said the kick in the ass you guys gave me was important. I still don't know if that was the same bull that we chased off the hill, because he was just kind of chilling in the bottom when we rolled up on him. I mean, he just seemed a little too calm, and he was bigger than hell.
I don't know, but I'll never forget, there was that moment, that really big moment when all those buffalo took off, and you're like, oof.
Yeah.
We could hang it up, or let's hunt our way back. So maybe it was a different bull. I don't know. But you're like, there's one. And I was like, no way, in the bottom.
Yeah, in the bottom.
Right down there. And you're like, and you looked at me and you're like, we have to grab the camera, bro. We have to go. We're going to do this. It's happening right now. And I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Here we go again, round 2.
Ding,
like,
ding.
We've been sitting on this boat for how long? And like, here it goes.
Remember the banana I had in my lunch? But you saw the banana in my lunch and you were like, grabbed it. You're like, no, and threw it off the boat. Oh, that was funny. Yeah. No bananas on the boat with Ian. But you know what that stock reminded me of? Because we just like dumped our gear and like made a bust, made a move, got close, got inside 50, shot the bison. That stock reminded me of one that we did the same year as the stone sheep hunt. You got to remember, we do this stone sheep hunt in, I think that was August 2014. And then in September, less than a month later, we were in Alaska and we chased a mountain goat. And that was maybe my best hike in my 40s that I made because that was steep. And we ascended that mountain for that mountain goat fast. I mean, we were rolling. Yeah. I mean, but we got to the top of that mountain and that storm blew in and the visibility's going away. We're like, oh, and I was thinking, oh, this is so screwed. This is going to get away from us. And I was like, nope, fix bayonets. Let's just roll. That was badass. That was a great, that stalk on the mountain goat was badass.
Oh, yeah, with the fog?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, with the fog.
You're like, hey, leave the camera on the mountain. Like, shoot over the shoulder. Let's go. And I was like, whoa, really? We're just going to, like, Rambo this shit now? And you're like, yep. Yeah. I'm like, all right.
If we can't see them, if we can't see them, they can't see us.
And then 32 yards, you're like, it'll lift. And I'm like, man, I don't know. We've climbed 1,800 feet, almost 2,000 feet at this point.
We went like, 2,000.
We have to seal. Yeah. Was it 2K?
Yeah,
that went 2K.
That hill was 2,200 and I think 18 feet high. And those goats were about 50 feet under that top. I mean, we went over 2,000 feet, sea level straight up. We had to break tree line. We went through all the junk and the brush and everything else. Then we got on that hillside. But of course, that isn't my near death. We're packing the goat out. The near death is when my feet go out from underneath me on that steep grassy slope. I took off on a toboggan ride for the cliffs. But, I remember clawing at the earth trying to get myself stopped. I felt helpless. I
will never forget the look on your face
as I shoot by out.
And you went just down the hill. And I was thinking about it. I was like, I was your boy. I had your back. I'm like, I'm going to throw an arm out like He-Man style, and I'm going to grab him. But I saw your fucking inertia in the speed, and I was like, I ain't got that. I was like, I watched you slide by, and I was like, dude, good luck.
You stuck your hand out for a second. You pulled it back like, psych.
Good luck. I felt so bad.
You should. I remember getting down to the beach, and I was like, damn, it's drafty down here. I reached back, and the ass was gone out of my pants.
It was torch, dude.
My butt cheeks were, just like barely any underwear. I mean, I went off that hill so fast on my ass that it just tore the butt end out of those QU attack pants. It's just gone. Actually, I didn't have the attacks. It was nice weather when we started, so I took off in those Tiburon pants, those real lightweight ones. I wish I could go back in time and put on my Guide Series pants because I probably would have still had some trousers on when I got to the beach.
Yeah, for sure. I will never forget watching you just down that mountain. I was like, oh, my God. Catch them, elders. Catch them.
I got lucky. I grabbed a twig, Something held me for a second. Well, it was a yard sale. Remember, we threw my pack over the edge, and I was like picking up my own shit all the way to the bottom of the mountain.
Oh yeah, you were mad. You're like, I lost a knife. I lost all this shit that was just yard sailing off your pack as you were sliding down that thing.
That pack fell apart.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that pack fell apart. I remember getting on the boat, and the guys were like, "Hey, your pack looks like hell. You know, what are you going to do with it? I was like, I'm throwing it in the ocean. They're like, no, we want it. I won't say which brand it was. You know, it's not the pack's fault that I, smashed the shit out of it for a whole season. But I mean, the reality is that I was getting ready to throw it in the ocean. You know, that was a tough one. And since that time, when I go to Alaska, I really do stick to my Frontier Gear pack. I like that big pack. That pack is tough. It's designed to do the Alaska thing. At least to me, it is. So, but
served you well.
It served me very, very well, no doubt about it. Let me ask you this, Ian. Do you remember, what's the heaviest pack you've ever put on in your life?
Oh, easy. The Shiras moose you killed in Utah.
Dude, what was it like watching Jeff Gines, our guide on that trip, put on, this is no joke, folks, there is, and I'm going to try, and when we edit this podcast, I'm going to put the photo up. Jeff Gines, if he's lucky, weighs 180 pounds. This is not a big man.
Maybe
180 pounds. And there was a hind quarter, a front quarter, and the head with the cape, antlers and everything on this pack. We had no business putting all that shit on one pack, all right? I don't even know what that pack weighed. We would have needed like a semi-truck scale or something. It was huge. This dude shoulders it and takes off, and I remember getting down there. I was like, "Hey, I want my spin with that." Jeff Giants. I was like, "Holy Christ, this thing's heavy!" And I put it on. I went a little ways, and then you were like, "Hey, I want my spin with this thing." And and here's and I was taking pictures of you with this thing because it was like nobody would ever believe us that we had some crazy hundreds of pounds. I mean, just the sheer weight on that pack was incredible. You went a little ways and you were like, "Oh, criminy, this is horrible." And Jeff Giants like, "Yo, I'll put that one on and finish the hike." I was like, "You got to be kidding me." The pack weighed extensively more than he did, like a lot more.
Oh yeah, by a mile.
Yeah,
by a mile.
Like 100+ pounds more than he weighed. I don't even know how much weight was on that pack. I don't even want to venture to guess, because what's a moose quarter on the bone, a hind, a front, and the head with like some neck meat obviously still attached, the cape, that horns. I mean, a wet cape, no less. Above my pay grade, man. I don't even know how to guess what that weight is. It was stupid insane how much weight was on that pack.
It was so heavy. It was so heavy.
Horribly heavy. I mean, I wish that moose hunt would have been better. I wish we would have seen more moose, filmed more moose. We made the most of the one bull that we saw and had a chance to kill. Although that is the trip where we had the Italian kid. Remember the prank you guys played on me where you're like he's like speaking Italian and you're like, "Dude, he doesn't speak English." It's like, "What? He doesn't speak English." I was like, how did I end up with this guy? And then he wanted to paint his face blue and look like Braveheart, and he had this sword. And I hope he's listening to this, because I actually did enjoy his enthusiasm. And it's not like he didn't have skills. He had skills and enthusiasm. It was the whole half a foot thing and tea kettling off the mountain. It was a crocodile ate half of his foot.
That was okay. So I retract my statement about the best shoot I've ever been on. That one was so fun. That one was so weird. Like straight up out of Ripley's, believe it or not. Like this kid came in on the shoot. Turns out, like 3 or 4 days later, he has no pinky toe.
Pinky toe? He didn't have half a freaking foot, Ian.
We're up there trying to film a hunt, and this guy just tips over and falls down a good 10 or 15 feet down the side of the mountain. And you look at me and you're like, was he hiking? I was like, no, he tipped over.
He was filming me.
The mountain.
Yeah,
and we had a moose, and the worst part was we had a moose underneath us that was like coming in, and he totally blew the whole thing up.
We stood up, and he goes, "I'm all
right."
Oh man, I'm all right.
You're like, "Oh man, I have to fire this guy." And I was like, "Yeah, it's, makes sense. Like the guy can't stand on the side of a mountain."
He can't stand on the side of the mountain without tipping over. Because I remember he set the camera up. I was getting ready to address the camera, like, "Hey, we got this moose coming in. I'm getting ready to start like into my TV dialogue. I'm going into character." And I look up, and this guy's like staring at me, and he's like at an angle. And I was like, "I wonder what's going on here." Like in my head, I'm like, "What's going on?" All of a sudden, he just slowly tipped over. and then cartwheeled down the hill. I was like, and the camera's still sitting there. I'm like, oh crap, my camera dude's cartwheeling down the side of this mountain. What's going on? And he just stands up, and you got this moose down there going, whoa, whoa. And this guy's like, I'm all right. And, I'm like, and that moose was just like, I'm out. Never even got to see him. He's just gone. Oh, it's horrible.
I remember that. He stood up. He was like, hey, I got it.
I'm good.
You're like, well, that's great, but you fucked up the moose on. We're glad you're okay, but man, you sure button hooked us.
Yeah, that was. Oh, I remember you captured the moment when I fired him perfectly. That's like the photograph that I saved it. It's like in one of my little memory boxes of photographs where I'm like standing there and he has this really concerned look on his face where he's being told, by the way, we're leaving the mountain and we're going straight to the airport. And he was just like, what, but why? And you captured that moment so perfectly. And I like to show that to the people that I hire right off the bat. So it's like, you don't want to be this guy, right? You don't want to be this guy.
Right.
So what do? I send him to Chris Brackett.
Oh, no.
Chris was going to train him up proper. I'm pretty sure, I know how that went. But he would have been perfect for whitetail hunting. But let's face it, anybody that shows up and like wants to paint like big blue crosses on their face and wave the sword. Remember how he just owned that sword? We're like cruising up the mountain in the side by side, and he's like, freedom, waving this sword around the air. And I'm thinking, you just can't make this shit up.
Oh shit! I remember you and I were like, hey, we have to go to Target. Like, we have to grab some shit.
We got the sword.
Right. Yeah, we got the blue face paint and the sword.
The blue face paint and the sword.
We drove back and we gave it to him. I've never seen a grown man like more excited about blue face paint and the sword. We're driving up the hill and he's pulling out this sword with his blue face paint. And he goes, freedom! Like trying to reenact. Like Mel Gibson. I was like,
folks,
dude, you're doomed. You're getting a ticket to the ride home tomorrow.
We can't make all these stories up. Whatever Ian and I did in a previous lifetime, God is like throwing it back on us now with these crazy encounters with, whether they be like wolves. Remember the night we were set up at the ranch here and we had the pack of wolves come around us and we're just like, oh crap, there's wolves everywhere. Like they're literally like surrounding us and we're filming it. That video alone has like 1 million views. And I mean, these people that we've been in the field with, whether it be, and what was his name? I don't even remember his name now. It's horrible that I forgot, but we got Braveheart reenactments going on and we're sleeping in tents on the side of a mountain for 28 days. That was your first indoctrination to like, hey, welcome to Steve's Outdoor Adventures. By the way, we're going to do the adventure series. I need you to meet me in Alaska, and we're going to sleep in a tent for a month.
Yeah, true story.
Yeah, true story. And then like 5 feet of snow. We started in a cabin, then we went to a tent, and man, that snow was just horrible. It was deep and nasty. Hey, speaking of the snow hunts, like that bear hunt, when we made that climb up the ascent up the face and the 30-mile-an-hour winds, and we went and killed that bear on the den, and then hiking out that night, my legs were like locking up from like dehydration. I was like cramped out. I was like, oh, I'm dead. I mean, that just the John Burroughs still one of the greatest bear guides I've ever been in the field with, if not the greatest. I mean, that dude's badass. I mean, when he found that bear on the Don Hardaway hunt, what an eye.
Oh, unreal.
Totally unreal. I mean, that dude is next level badassery as far as a bear guide goes. I'd hunt with John the drop of a hat. But I mean, once again, it's just these wild stories of these adventures we've on. It's like the adventures seek us out when we hit the woods. It's like, hey, let's jump in a Super Cub and go do some cool shit. And eventually something awesome is going to happen, irregardless if we're going to get an animal or not. We're just going to go do this. It's like, oh, who's this character? Oh, this character is an interesting fellow. or the fox, like out there in the sand, the little fox. Denise, didn't you name her Denise or something? Fox.
Oh, yeah, when you shot that black bear in your Crocs that came across cam.
Yeah, black bears in the Crocs.
That was freaking awesome.
Yeah, who does that, right? Like, who gets black bears in their Crocs? Like, literally, we're sitting around camp in the middle of the day, like we dug a swimming pool in the sand, wasn't it? Like, I mean,
we did.
Yeah, we dug a swimming pool in the sand in the middle of Alaska nowhere because we're getting heat stroke. It went from the biggest snow year to like 90 degrees. It was miserable. We're standing around. All of a sudden, this black bear's like crossing the sandy river bottom below camp, and I'm like, "Hey, everybody, there's a bear down here." We like snapped up rifles, grabbed cameras. You and Sam smashed into gear at 1,000 miles an hour. I'm pretty sure Jeremy was barefoot, and we speed off downrange, we lay down, go prone, and smoke this bear. And it's like, damn, that shit just happened, literally, like in Crocs. I mean, I remember I still have sand in my gear from that trip. And but I mean, once again, just like the way some of these adventures played out was just over the top. I wish we could do a film just on, I wish there was like a special camera in heaven that like captured all the strange shit that happened to us when we didn't have cameras rolling, and we're like playing it back. Cause I know someday I'm going to be up there and St. Peter's going to be like, all right, dude, we're about ready to watch this video. Is there anything you want to tell me first?
I know, right? I know.
I take the fifth, St. Peter. I take the fifth.
Take the fifth.
Yeah. Did the good shit outweigh the bad shit? Please tell me it did, Speaking of doing good things, I'm still trying to get into heaven. So we're taking, these special kids on their hunting trips and the wounded vets. And you remember the amber hunt. You said something on the amber hunt when we almost screwed up and didn't get picket fence, that big-ass elk. That elk hunting is a game of seconds. I was about to leave the stump. Like, all right, let's roll. Let's go do something else. And I don't know, you were doing something and you were like 2 steps behind us, and which is where the camera operator usually is 2 steps behind us because that's where your job is. And you're like, hey, wait a minute, guys, there's some elk coming out. And turn around, come back, and picket fence walks out, and Amber makes history, right? I mean, it's, we were blessed to take some pretty awesome kids on hunting trips. I hope they're all still with us. I know some of them aren't, but yeah, I mean, dude, the adventures. It's like we can't make this shit up, right? I mean, the adventures. And we're lucky that we captured these adventures on film. I mean, we can't, it's funny. I don't have any bullshit hunting stories to tell people. I haven't hunted off camera in 20 years.
I know. I hear you. It's the same way. They're like, no way that happened. You're like, actually, just look at the tape.
Yeah, let me get my laptop out real quick.
Yeah. No, it happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
but you just have to be out there. That's the most important part.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. I don't think there was ever an adventure where we said, that's a little sketchy. Maybe we shouldn't do that adventure. Nope. It was like, fuck it, let's roll.
Full send.
Full send. Dude, never half send, always full send, 110%, balls out all the way. I mean, I pray to God I don't die of old age sitting in some nursing home crapping in a bag. I mean, I want to be that guy that literally, when you go to my open casket funeral, there's a pile of bear shit in there and about a half dozen empty 375 cartridges. Be like, this is how we found him, folks. That's how I want to go. I mean, I want to burn it in at 100 miles an hour or something fast. I want to be yelling hell yes when it's time to go, because I ain't nursing home material. I ain't going to no damn home. I have a friend of mine's dad that tells me that. I was teasing, was like, Norm, you get any older, you start slipping, we're going to have to put you in the home. Bullshit, I ain't going to no goddamn home. Yeah, I feel the same way, Norm. I'm not going. No, it's like secondhand lions. I want to crash an airplane into a barn.
This segment of the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast is sponsored by Burris Optics. Find what matters.
Well, we had a little bit of a malfunction there with our camera. The camera's actually automatically shut off at 30 minutes, and Ian and I got to talking so passionately about some of these adventures that the camera decided to take us to a short commercial break, unannounced. As we were saying, these incredible adventures, they lead us to this adventure lifestyle. This, it's just like, we're not designed. I don't know about you, Ian, but I wasn't built to sit at home on weekends or pretty much sit in an office and rot or grow old in an old folks home. I don't know about you, but the outdoors, that whole hashtag get outside, that's big for me. The adventure lifestyle. I mean, how would you say that? Did your life change any? Working for like Steve's Outdoor Adventures after when you moved on and went on the rest of your life. I mean, did it have any impact on how you kind of live your day to day life or week to week life thereafter?
Well, yeah, changed exponentially because you realize like life is right out there if you want to live it. It's a choice. Sit on the couch. I think we talked about that on our first conversation when you were talking about hiring me. You were like, you have to go out there and get it. Like what you want to see, what you want to achieve, what you want to go out and try and find. You're not going to find that on the couch. So you can sit there and turn on Sportsman's Channel or an Outdoor Channel and watch everybody else do it, or you can go out there and do it yourself.
Yeah.
Filming with you changed the whole entire landscape of my life because I got to see places, I got to meet people, I got to travel, I got to experience things that I would never experience without choosing just to say yes. Like, hell yeah, like I'm going to go for it.
I don't think we ever said no. I don't think, that's what I was saying. I don't think you and I ever looked in an adventure and said, maybe we shouldn't do this one. Unless it was boring. I mean, like, hey, do you want to go on a gopher hunt? No. You guys want to go hunt, polar bears in the Arctic off of dog sleds, in the dead of winter? Yes. Sign us up. We're out. Let's roll. And I think that like people ask me all the time, what is Steve's Outdoor Adventures, to you? And I was like, well, Steve's Outdoor Adventures is more than just my company, right? It's more than just my brand. It's a lifestyle. I mean, that, and I'm trying to carry that over into like Far Wide, right? So like with Far Wide, it's like, hey, let's not just be a mapping app. Let's be like an online community. Let's be a Far Wide lifestyle. Let's have people live this incredible lifestyle of adventure and being outside and enjoying all of the things that this world gives us, because like you said, you're not going to find that shit sitting on the couch unless you just want to live vicariously through all of us. I mean, DVR the show, download the podcast and listen to it, but listen to it and watch the show and everything else after you've taken yourself outside, stretch your limitations, put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Make sure a grizzly bear has at least sniffed your neck at least once in this lifetime. Have the engine stall on a Super Cub at least once before you leave this earth. Yep. I mean, just like you said, the adventures and the stories that we have. I mean, if anything, look, all things come to an end. There will be a day, hopefully later rather than sooner, where my run in television comes to an end. There'll be a day where no one wants to listen to my podcast or gives two shits about my opinion on something. And I'm okay with that because there's an expiration date on all of us. We don't know what it is, but when that time comes, the only thing I'm going to have is about 500 terabytes of video and a bunch of memories, and I want to be able to pick up the phone someday and be like, "Hey, Ian, happy 73rd birthday, you old fart." You remember that? Remember that time we ate my birthday cake at South Fork on a grizzly bear hunt, and 2 days later we went up, It's those are the memories that I take with me, and I hope that the shows that we filmed and aired inspire people to get off their ass and get outside. I really do. I don't know. I've had people tell me they did, but I mean, what do you think? I mean, do you think? I mean, I know we did a great job of especially the adventure series, dude. Our adventure series kicked ass. I mean, what do you? I mean, if you had a message for the people who are listening, what would that message be?
Do it. Just do it. Just go out there. It's if it's outside of your comfort zone, that's where life really lives. Like, go out there, just go for it, because everything you fucking want, pardon my language, is right on the other side of what you're scared about. So go out and do it. It'll change your whole entire life. It'll change your mindset. It'll change everything. Just go out there, do it, get that hunt, have fun, travel to a new place, meet some new people, and go out there and try and fulfill your goal of what you want. I mean, that's life, you know, period.
Balls out. Live balls out. I mean, you can't take the money with you. I have guys all the time that come, well, I'm in my 70s. I've decided I better start doing some of these things before it's too late. It's like, really? You know, you find out they've run an extensive network of companies and they've got lots of money. And they've always had the money, but they never took the time to just live. And I love to tell the story of the guy that was 76. I remember this because he bought the hunt on his 76th birthday. He said, you know what? He said, I've had the money to do this for 20 years. I've always wanted to go elk hunting. I was like, really? You wait till you're 76? I'm kind of a workaholic, blah, blah, blah. The dude died of old age before the hunt happened. Had a heart attack and died.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a decade ago. And that story has stuck with me because I remember his wife called me and she was like, well, you know, he passed away, had a heart attack. I know he finally had booked his dream hunt he'd been talking about for years. And I was like, you know what? This is my lesson. To hell with the consequences of maybe sometimes not being in the office or getting my work done. I've got to go, you know, because I'm not, once again, look, any of us could leave this earth tomorrow. It's not up to us, right? I mean, you know, when your time's up, your time's up. You get hit by the bread truck, a plane falls out of the sky, whatever it might be, the Rona, you know, God forbid we get the Rona again. And you don't know when your time's up. So when you just want to live every single day, we're either working toward doing something like that or actually going out and doing it. Just like you say, get off the couch, get off your ass and go live, you know. And if your dream is to go backpack in the mountains, go backpack in the mountains. If your dream is to go fishing in Alaska and catch king salmon, you know, go do it, you know. Do it. Find a way to do it, you know. Where there's a will, there's a way. And it's, like you said, it's just a matter of doing it and getting out there and kicking ass. And for me, that's what I hope Steve's Outdoor Adventures, whether it be the podcast or the TV show, inspires people to do, is get out there and do what you and I did, which is, you know, we lived it. You know, we kicked ass and you know, and the guys who did this stuff with us, like Dan Thorstad, right? I mean, Dan's a kick-ass team member, right? Stills films for me a little bit from time to time. I'm hoping he can get back in the field some more. But, I mean, think about the adventures we had with Dan, you know, cameraman Dan, and a horse named Cracker. I'll tell that story for the next 100 years. That frickin' horse Cracker. Anyway, you know, and, you know, just all of the, you know, Raymond Wing. You know, we took that kid straight out of college and put him in the sticks. And, you know, talk about a kid that went out of his comfort zone. He went from, like, absolutely zero idea what he was getting into to, sure, okay, send me back to Alaska again. Let's go. You know, he embraced it, you know, and then, you know, Dylan and, you know, and Adam, you know, those interns that we started off with. And then, oh gosh, I'm trying to think, you know, Braveheart, you know, that kid, you know, gosh, I wish I could remember his name. I'm so bad with names anymore these days. But, I mean, all of these great characters that we kind of took along on our adventures with us, you know, they're a part of the story. They're part of my memories forever. And I hope that we did a good job of sharing those stories with the viewers and telling the stories. So, hey, by the way, you've been hunting Montana black bear this year, right?
Sure have. Yep. Giving her hell.
Seen any big ones yet?
Yeah, a few.
Yeah?
A few. I'm picky.
Sure. I mean,
yeah, pretty picky.
Gotcha. I know I'm trying to get the crew up onto the 7 mag again. We got to get you some more boxes out. I've got some special bear hammer ammo we're loading up for you. It's a little different from the last stuff you got from us. It's a special blend.
Oh, nice.
It's actually called Bear Hammer. Some 160 grain Swift A-frames for your 7 mag. You'll love it.
Oof, I like that.
Crushers. bangers. These are built for crushing bears. And since I know you're picky and you're only going to shoot a great big one, we'll hook it up. But for Ty's gun, if Ty's going to shoot any stuff, let me know. I got to put a little curve at the top of the tip of the bullet so that it like flies hard left or hard right, so he actually hits what he's aiming at.
Nice. He'll fucking love that, bro.
Oh yeah,
he'll love that.
Yeah, it'll help him hit something, All right. Well, hey, man, it's been awesome having you on the show. Let me ask this: you got a captive audience here. We got listeners that are tuned in. If you were going to give somebody advice on one trip, like if there was one trip that you could go do again, if you could hit the rewind button, what is the one trip that you could do with us, and why would you advise somebody to do that particular trip if they were a hunter or a fisherman?
Ooh, that's a hard question. Damn. I mean, I guess ultimately it depends what you're into. I think that no matter what is on your plate, you have to go up to Alaska. You have to, whether it be sick of blacktails, mountain goats, caribou, moose. I don't know. I just feel like everybody has to go up and choose and experience Alaska.
Yeah.
Because it's so wild.
Think about this. This is how many adventures we have. It's just dawned on me that we didn't talk about the solar solstice boat ride across the river. We didn't talk about that kick-ass stalk we made for that caribou way up on that mountainside in Alaska. We didn't talk about Floyd Brown's, the stalk on that grizzly bear that was laying there the whole frickin' time that charged at us. We didn't talk about my feet after the end of a desert sheep hunt in the Baja of Mexico. Dude, I could go on and on about all the stories. We didn't even get a chance to talk about tonight.
Your feet after Mexico were fucked, bro. They were fucked.
I had to lay in that hotel room and like convalesce. My feet felt like they were 175 degrees. I mean, the heat coming from my feet were just hammered. But you know what?
That was so bad.
We had a desert bighorn sheep, though. So it was okay.
Yeah, that shot was pretty sweet with the 308.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, literally as we start to wrap up this podcast and I think about all these memories, I'm like, damn, there's even more, more stories and stuff. And the whole behind the scenes, feel that I was trying to give everybody. I was like, man, so many kick-ass stories that we never, I'll tell you what we got to do. We got to write a book.
I know. We should.
We should write a book. And we could even like call it something, because everybody has like an excerpt from the book that they give the title to. Let's call it Steve's Fucked Feet.
That makes sense.
Or Missing Toenails.
I've seen your feet do some wild ass shit. British Columbia all the way down south to Mexico. I've seen them do some shit.
It's like eight missing toenails, or just throw some crazy title on the book like that just makes everybody go, what? Well, I have to buy a book that says 8 missing toenails, or Steve's Fucked Feet, or yeah. I mean, God, that would be so much fun. That's it. I got to find somebody that can just, because I can't type that much. My chicken pecking, I'd get through like one chapter and be like, whew. We would have to get somebody to like dictate and like biography it so that they were like the ones actually writing it. Oh man.
What you need is a badass voiceover. Be like, and here Steve is now in the Sonora Desert of Mexico, chasing a desert bighorn.
Yeah.
And now here is Steve in British Columbia.
It's 98 degrees. The cactus thorns are hypodermic
the Mexicans
needles.
are trying to feed Ian jalapenos, which are going to set his butt on fire.
Or better yet,
poop in a bush in the shade.
Better yet is what Ian is going to tell Steve. I don't sunburn. I just turn brown. And then I turn around and look back, and you look like a freaking lobster, bro. I'll never forget that. I cut the sleeves. You did. You looked like a tomato. I literally cut the sleeves off of a shirt so that you could have something to put over your arms. Oh man, that was funny as hell. You remember we only ate one thing. For 2 weeks we ate one thing. The 6 same burritos every day. you had 6 of them that were straight beans, and you had 6 of them that were machaca. And after that, you could just crap through a screen door. It was horrible.
You remember? Yeah, for sure, dude. You remember Dan was like, there were 12 goats when we showed up here, and now there's 7. We're eating goats, and he got like all pissed off and like scared about it.
That was
like,
machaca. What do you think it was?
Delicious.
It was awesome. With the green chilies. Oh man. Well, hey man, we've hit up on our time limit. We're up to almost an hour and a half. This may be the longest podcast I've recorded because once again, just the memories and the stories and everything else. Look, I expect an invitation to that party. Okay, when you get married, when you've actually taken the plunge and you've said I do, kinda, and we get together for that party, we'll hash it out. We'll have some more great reminiscing, but I'll bring some FUBAR tequila and a bucket of limes.
Hell yeah.
Because
I'm in. Sounds good, buddy.
Because the last time I got hammered was with you. And that was like 7 or 8 years ago. And but we'll get together at your wedding reception. We'll have a good time. We'll reminisce some more, and I want to wish you well in that and your journeys, and like I said, we got to get together again sometime soon. Though, it's hard to end a podcast when there's still so many stories to tell. They're like literally popping into my mind like bubbles. But we have to call this one a show. I have an hour and a half max, and man, brother, thanks for joining me on the show tonight. I really appreciate that. And damn, let's kick ass.
Thanks for having me.
Oh shit, anytime,
appreciate
man.
it, buddy.
Hey, if you need anything, to call me, right?
You bet.
All right, brother. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for tonight's podcast. Look for the next Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast episode. It'll be coming soon. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and the far wide platforms. We'll see you then, and until then, get outside.
The Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast is sponsored by Farwide, the game-changing free app that puts outdoor intelligence in the palm of your hand.